it seems strange. This is what I've heard from a lot of people, that basically it dries out the plants. So
it kills them.
Right.
It kills them.
No, by the way, the ones that are not genetically modified. The entire purpose of genetically modified food was to design vegetables that don't die when you spray this deadly poison on it, and everything else around it dies. So you're getting glyphosate on the GMO crops. The entire purpose of a GMO crop is one that is glyphosate resistant, and then you take the ones that aren't GMO crops and you kill them, which is why when you see a loaf of bread and it says non-GMO, that's not a good thing. People go, oh, it's like organic. No, it's nothing like organic. What it's saying is this was just regular wheat we poured glyphosate all over it before we ground it up and stuck it in this loaf of bread. So people need to recognize that non-GMO, sure, the crop wasn't designed to be Roundup resistant. They didn't want it to be because they used it the last minute to dry the entire crop out. So you're getting it no matter what you do. But I think to the point also, the farmers are terrified of Robert Kennedy Jr., people wanting to look at glyphosate. It's going to infect their entire industry. This is what they've gotten used to as modern farming. And now we've got to figure out, how do we move them back into regenerative farming, organic farming? Do they want to retrain? I mean, all of those things. This is what they know as farming. They have, GMO seeds that are, ready for the glyphosate to be poured all over them. Or, I mean, the entire, Monsanto has made the entire farming system based around their product, and they've got all farmers, I would say, hooked on it. It's not their fault. It's just what modern farming was going to be until now we're waking up and say, wait a minute, it's killing us. Even the vegetables are bad for us.
Well, so real quick, I guess I would call it the mainstream statement or view on glyphosate is that it is a misinformation campaign that glyphosate causes autism or cancers. There's an article from Science-Based Medicine saying that Stephanie Seneff, a computer scientist at MIT, who thinks that gives her sufficient expertise in epidemiology to do studies in it, among her wider claims that glyphosate, GMOs, and other modern lifestyle factors are responsible for the recent increase in concussions. She's long been claiming glyphosate causes autism. Perhaps my favorite claim of hers is that by 2025, half of all children will be autistic. Truly, Seneff is a master of inappropriately confusing correlation with causation. This is an op-ed. I find it interesting, but it is this is really strange. It's an opinion piece by David Gorski, but it is cited as a factual article by Wikipedia in the misinformation campaigns. It says, glyphosate has become a focus of campaigning and misinformation by anti-GMO activists because of its association with genetically modified glyphosate-resistant crops. U.S. politician R.F. Kennedy Jr. has incorporated glyphosate into his anti-vaccination rhetoric, falsely claiming that both glyphosate and vaccines may be contributing to the American obesity epidemic. I think I was going to say Stephanie Seneff also falsely claimed that it may have a role in autism. I'd like to find a better source than a couple of op-eds, but that's the only thing Wikipedia has cited.
So this is why we write our Substack. So when we did our essay on glyphosate, we went to the primary literature. And we cited that primary literature and summarized it for people. So if you go into our Substack, you'll find the actual journal articles, and you can bypass all of this op-ed opinion from Wiki and the utilization of these terms like misinformation, which is just more part of the propaganda. Go to the basic science. Go to the peer-reviewed literature on the use of glyphosate and the testing that is being done on various animal models, because you're not going to feed glyphosate to children. Or to pregnant women intentionally. You do that with laboratory models. But then what's also been done is a series of studies looking at, for instance, pregnancy and urine, maternal urine, and glyphosate contamination. And the glyphosate contamination being found in the urine of pregnant women is aligned with the levels that are known to be causing these effects in animal models. So that's how you do toxicology. So all of that, we've seen this again and again and again. You have this narrative that's built up and supported, and it persists long after the actual data are out there. And it's very difficult to break because they use these mechanisms to reinforce it. But you got to go back to the emerging science. And what happens is when you have a time when this science is not a thing, right? That's scientism. When you have change going on in the research data often corporate media is way behind the curve, typically years. So that's why we do what we do with our Substack.
That makes a lot of sense as to why the corporate press is behind the curve, because they're well behind the research. It would be silly to think that some journalist in an office who's never been in a lab has the bleeding edge understanding of all this technology. What I will say is, are you familiar with BMJ.com?
Yeah, British Medical Journal.
Yeah.
And is this a prominent medical journal for publishing?
BMJ is a really quite a good journal.
Yeah.
They're not flawless like any medical journal.
But I just want to make sure I'm not pulling up some
they're
by night random conspiracy blog.
They are one of the few that has come through the COVID crisis with integrity.
So I wanted to I want to make sure that people who are listening understand BMJ is not some random conspiracy site, because they actually do have a peer-reviewed publication, Prenatal and Infant Exposure to Ambient Pesticides and Autism Spectrum Disorder in Children, population-based case control study, with the conclusion, findings suggest that an offspring's risk of autism spectrum disorder increases following prenatal exposure to ambient pesticides within 2,000 meters, I'm assuming, of the mother's residence during pregnancy, compared with offspring of women from the same agricultural region without such exposure. Infant exposure could further increase risk for autism spectrum disorder with comorbid intellectual disability. They do include a correction citing that there was an oversight and a potential conflict of interest. I want to make sure everybody understands that. But this is what BMJ has as a published, peer-reviewed journal on the issue. Thanks for watching this clip from the Culture War podcast. We're live every Friday, 10 a.m. to noon. So subscribe and come hang out.